Chapter 1. This is going to be a part of Unit 1, and we'll be covering biological terminology in this chapter. Now, this actually is what, in my opinion, is one of the most important chapters that we will cover in this entire course, simply because in anatomy, a lot of our structures are named after what they look like, maybe what they do, their shape, their appearance. And so the better that you are able to understand the terminology of anatomy, the easier this class is going to be. First things first is we have to figure out what is the structure of a biological word in the first place. And first off, the word root is going to be the main component of a biological word. And so the word root is just going to be the portion that just describes what the entire word is talking about. So for instance, a very common word root you've probably heard of before is cardi for heart. A suffix is going to come at the end of the word, and all it's going to do is just modify the word root and just make it a little more specific, whereas a prefix is going to come before the word root, but it's going to do the same thing. It's just going to modify the word just a little bit and make it a little more descriptive. The combining vowel is just a vowel that comes after the word root, and it's just going to make the word a little bit easier to say. And then a combining form is the word root and its combining vowel put together. That's all a combining form is. So going over some common word roots and combining forms, those two kind of play hand in hand. Cardi, we just mentioned being heart. Its combining form is cardio. Cranio is going to be referring to the cranium or skull. Naso is going to be referring to the nose. Spleno is going to be referring to the spleen, and there are a huge list of different word roots you may encounter in combining forms and all the other parts of biological terminology found in your appendix number 1 in the back of your lab manual that you can look at. For prefixes, these are very common. We'll see a lot throughout anatomy, and you'll see in other courses such as physiology as well. The first one's going to be called epi, which is going to mean on or upon or over. And so we'll actually see that in a term later on in this unit called an epicondyle. And that epi is just making that condyle a little more descriptive, meaning it's a bump on another bump. But we'll worry about that later when we get there. Hyper is another one that's very common, meaning above or excessive. So you've probably heard of hyperglycemia, which is high blood sugar. That hyper is telling you it is above normal. And then the opposite of hyper is going to be hypo, which is going to be below or under. So same thing, hypoglycemia is going to be low blood sugar. The prefix infra will mean below. Supra will mean above. And we'll see that in Unit 4 specifically. There is a hole above your eye orbit, which is a hole will be a foramen, but we'll learn that here in just a bit. And it's just called whether it's above or below that eye orbit. So infraorbital foramen or supraorbital foramen. Inter is another common one we'll see. That just means between. So you've probably actually heard or recognized inter, such as an interstate, which is going to be a highway that's going to connect two states. And so that inter is just going to be between. A common word we'll see this like intranasal suture, which we'll do in Unit 4 as well. We'll have a few other examples, but this is pretty easy to understand. Just a suture between the two nasal bones. Peri will mean around. And where we'll see that is in Unit 3, which is a pericardial sac, which is actually a double-layered membrane that's going to surround the heart. And that peri in pericardial is telling you it is around the heart. Sub is going to be beneath or under. We'll see that with subscapular fossa. You may have heard of another word before this course called sub-zero. It's telling you that is beneath or under zero, as in temperature. And then we'll see a or an, which means without or absent. And so when you get to skin, you'll learn the epidermis, which is the outermost layer of the skin, is avascular. So that A is telling you it does not have vasculature, which means it doesn't have any blood vessels.